They say intelligence protects you from lies, from manipulation, from heartbreak, that if you're smart, self-aware, and emotionally intelligent, you'll never fall for the wrong person. But Carl Jung knew something most people don't. The smarter you are, the more complex your illusions become. And that's exactly why intelligent people often fall into the most toxic relationships. They don't see a person, they see potential, not because they're blind, but because they see too much. They notice patterns others miss. They understand the pain behind someone's anger, the trauma behind their distance. They empathize so deeply that they start confusing understanding someone with forgiving them. They analyze, rationalize, and in doing so, they ignore what their intuition already knows. Because intelligence can understand everything, except its own emotional blindness. Smart people think they can solve people the way they solve problems. They believe that if they can just explain things clearly, love deeply, or stay patient long enough, the other person will heal, change, or finally understand. But intelligence can become its own trap, because when you're used to seeing complexity in everyone, you start making excuses for cruelty. You start romanticizing dysfunction as depth. You start believing that your empathy is strength, when in reality, it's what keeps you chained. You tell yourself, they're just wounded. They didn't mean it. They're trying. And before you know it, you're no longer analyzing the relationship. You're rationalizing the pain. Jung once said that the greatest danger to intelligence is the illusion of control. You think you can fix it, repair it, make sense of it. But what if the truth is simpler and far more painful? What if you're not meant to understand them? You're meant to outgrow them. Carl Jung believed that one of the most dangerous illusions of the human mind is the belief that understanding something gives you power over it. Smart people fall for this illusion all the time, especially in love. They dissect every behavior, every word, every silence. They find reasons behind the other person's pain, childhood trauma, fear of abandonment, past betrayal, and they think, if I understand where it comes from, I can handle it. But understanding pain doesn't stop it from hurting you. Recognizing toxicity doesn't make you immune to it. You can analyze poison all you want, it's still poison. Highly intelligent people often confuse insight with safety. They think that naming the problem somehow gives them control over it. But the truth is, sometimes, the more you understand someone, the harder it becomes to walk away, because you start to empathize with the reason behind their cruelty. You start to pity them instead of protecting yourself. And pity is not compassion. It's attachment disguised as kindness. It's your mind saying, they're broken, I can fix them. It's your ego whispering, my love will be the exception. Jung warned that intellect can be a dangerous servant when it tries to do the heart's job. You can rationalize pain for years, write essays in your head about why they act the way they do, and still wake up every morning feeling smaller, lonelier, and more confused, because the mind might understand patterns, but only the soul knows when something is wrong. And every time you say, but I understand them, what you really mean is, I'm afraid to accept that understanding isn't enough. Carl Jung said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what he didn't mean was that every reaction is healthy. Sometimes the fire that draws you in is the same one that burns you down. Smart, self-aware people often fall not for a person, but for a projection. They fall in love with their own reflection, disguised as someone else. The person becomes a mirror, showing them what they long to heal, to fix, to understand. You see their sadness and you think, I know that feeling. You see their darkness and you whisper, I can help. You see their potential and mistake it for reality. But Jung warned, What you call love might just be your own unconscious, reaching out to itself. You are not drawn to their soul. You are drawn to the part of you that still lives in shadow, the unloved, unhealed, unseen part. You're not rescuing them. You're trying to rescue yourself through them. That's why it feels magnetic. That's why it feels fated. Because your inner world recognizes something familiar, pain dressed as connection. Your mind calls it chemistry, but your soul knows its recognition. The toxic relationship becomes an emotional mirror. Every argument, every wound, every moment of longing, it's your own buried emotions reflected back at you. And until you face what that mirror is showing, you'll keep calling your shadow love. You'll keep chasing healing in someone else's chaos. Because what the mind wants to fix in others is often exactly what the heart refuses to confront within itself. Carl Jung said that the greatest sin of the intellect is arrogance, the belief that it knows, and that belief is exactly what traps the intelligent mind in toxic love. When you are used to seeing the truth others can't, it's hard to accept that you might be the one deceived. Your mind becomes your defense. It's just a phase. They're healing. They didn't mean it. But what you call compassion might just be your ego refusing to lose. Because if the relationship fails, it means your analysis was wrong. Your insight wasn't enough. Your love didn't fix them. For a mind that thrives on understanding, that feels like defeat. So you keep rewriting the story, finding deeper meanings in their silence, symbolism in their cruelty, lessons in their distance. You turn their neglect into philosophy, and the longer you stay, the more you confuse endurance with strength and pain with purpose. But Jung warned that the ego's favorite illusion is control. You believe you can manage chaos because you understand it, but understanding a storm doesn't stop it from destroying your home. You can map every lightning strike, but it still burns. The truth is, you don't want them to change. You want to prove that your love was powerful enough to make them change. That's not love. That's ego disguised as empathy. And once you see that clearly, the illusion begins to crumble. Because the smartest people aren't destroyed by others. They're destroyed by their own belief that they should have known better. At some point, even the sharpest mind runs out of explanations. The logic that once protected you starts to collapse under its own weight. You've analyzed every word, forgiven every action, rationalized every wound, and yet the pain remains. That's when the awakening begins, not as a moment of clarity, but as quiet exhaustion. When you stop trying to make sense of why someone keeps hurting you and finally ask, why do I keep staying? Jung believed that every suffering holds an invitation, not to understand the other, but to confront yourself. Because the people who break you the most are often the ones sent to reveal the cracks you've been hiding. You realize you weren't in love with them. You were in love with the story of what they could become. You were addicted to potential, not reality. And once you see that, everything changes. The love that once felt infinite suddenly feels heavy. The silence you once tolerated now feels unbearable. You stop asking for closure because you finally understand. Closure isn't something they give. It's something you choose. You walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. You no longer need to win the story. You just need to end it. And as the door closes, you feel it, the strange calm of truth. The mind quiets, the heart exhales, and for the first time, you see that the relationship wasn't your failure, it was your initiation. The pain was never meant to punish you, it was meant to awaken you. When you finally step out of the story, you see what Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming whole by walking through your own darkness. You understand that love was never meant to be a battlefield where you lose yourself to prove your worth. It was meant to be a mirror, to show you who you are when everything else is stripped away. So if you ever wonder why someone so intelligent, so self-aware, could fall for something so painful, remember this: your mind didn't fail you. It was your heart asking for healing in the only language it knew. You don't have to regret the love that broke you. It was your teacher. It taught you the difference between connection and captivity, between compassion and self-betrayal. And when you finally choose yourself, when you stop begging for understanding and start offering it inward, that's when wisdom is born. Because true intelligence is not how much you know, it's how deeply you've learned to love yourself without illusion. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. Every comment you leave becomes part of someone else's healing. Write what this video awakened in you. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.